message sent is never the message received. I remember the first time I heard that. I was in junior at Humboldt State University. I'd done my first couple of years at junior college and had transferred to Humboldt. And it was in, I think it was the first week of school. And I had I made a new friend earlier in the week who went on to become my best friend, Eric Fong, at a biology class, a big lecture hall type of a thing. And Eric had sat just a few seats down from me, a very serious look on his face and a very determined man to dig into that giant biology text that we were going to go through. And he and I became friends right away, and discovered that we had another class that we had signed up for together, which was a Speech Communication 101, Introduction to Speech Communication. And Eric and I went to that class together, and we sat down in a small class. It wasn't a big lecture hall. And a small class in a more remote part of the campus. Humboldt State University is basically a university in a forest, and the campus centers are here and there. And it was built out of a small community, so there are houses here and there. I mean, the actual faculty offices, and for many of the departments were actually homes that were converted into offices, and each of the teachers would have their little room, which would be their place. Anyway, we were in this little room, and this was a standard classroom though. And in breezes this very thin, gentle-looking man, bald head with male pattern baldness, and the most delighted beam in his smile and twinkle in his eyes. And he said, first thing he does, he plunks his books down. He gives us all a wide smile, and the very first words out of his mouth are, "The message sent is never the message received." And Eric and I looked at each other, and we listened. We then sat through 50 minutes of the most interesting, fascinating introduction to the wonders of human communication that sealed our fates. Eric and I afterwards, so we both talked about it. In the junior year of universities, typically where people decide what their major will be, the first 2 years are general studies. And he and I that very day decided on a course of studying speech communication as our major course of study, with a minor in biology for me. And that also was the day that we began one of the most important relationships for both of us in terms of our relationship and mentorship with Dr. Doug Losey. Eric and I, and also a young woman whom we met in that class, Thielen Mani, and the three of us, Thielen, Eric, and I, formed our little gang for the next couple of years. And the three of us were speech communication majors, and we were quickly brought under the wing of Doug Losey. And it wasn't long before we were spending hours throughout the week in Doug's office, which was he liked us to call him Doug, but he'll always be Dr. Losey to me for my awe and respect for him. His office was in one of those houses. It was beautiful, old craftsman-style house, beautiful, but it was beautiful, magnificent. It was very large, and he had the basement part. It was not a true basement. It gave off into a garden with windows all about, a huge expanse the size of a modern living room. His office was, with furnishings everywhere, beautiful furnishings from his travels around the world. Let's not go there, too many cicadas. And he had a beautiful seating area in his desk, and he always welcomed us into his room. I was so lucky throughout my college years to meet so many fascinating professors who brought me under their wing. So we would spend hours there with Professor Losey, Eric and Thielen and I. And Eric and Thielen decided to join the forensics team, aka the debate team. And so we would go there under the auspices of practicing and questioning Professor Losey after debate techniques, but really just to be with him. And but I would sit there. I wasn't on the team, but I would sit there and watch Eric and Thielen spar. And while Doug sat there with his fingers clasped and that beautiful smile on his face, and he would train them and teach them. It was like watching two karate experts sparring with one another, and Doug would teach them about the Socratic method of dialogue and of teasing out the premise within an argument, and then to find the contradictions, and to then lay bare the essence of what was being said. And he also taught us the wonderful thing, I can't remember the Greek word for it, apathy or something like that, the condition whereupon two debaters reach a point where they are basically concluded. They've reached it's almost a state of puzzlement where they can go no further with the argument, and then they amicably quit the argument. I was reminded of this when I first learned the Japanese game of Go from my father, and he taught me that the game of Go often ends when both parties admit that they can go no further, that the game is simply over without actually there being a point where the winner occurs. It's actually a mutual understanding that the game is complete. Such was the case with Doug Losey's training in terms of argumentation and debate, that the best sometimes happened, the best ending sometimes happened when it was an agreed upon conclusion by both parties. And I would watch Thielen and Eric do that, and they were such masters. They would go off and they would and have their debate matches with other schools. I wish I had joined them now at that point. My years with Doug, my last memory of Doug is the day before he died, when Eric and Thielen and I visited him on his deathbed. And he was in a very bad condition at that time. We'd been seeing him for weeks up until that point, and we had heard that he had a moment of cognizance. He had kind of come back from his near coma-like state. And we went in to visit him, and I brought him a Sunset magazine, which he loved so much because he loved to see the recipes. As he said, he was a true Californian for those wonderful, beautiful outdoor evening dining with beautiful California cuisine. And I brought him that Sunset magazine, and his light returned to his eyes, even though he was withered and pale, and he was just basically a skeleton with a bit of flesh on him. And he died the very next day after Eric and Thielen and I visited him. And I will never forget the look in his eyes and the lessons that he taught us over the years. He brought me to a new understanding of what communication means, and it all began in many layers. I could go on and make video about the lessons that Doug offered through the lectures that I took with him. He and Professor Peter Cohen and others as well. But I'll never forget, the most significant one was that very first word I ever heard out of Dr. Losey's mouth that I've never forgotten, and is reinforced to me day after day, especially after becoming a YouTube content provider, a content uploader, where I can upload and then see the reaction that people have. And Doug Losey, and it's so often revealed to me exactly what Doug said, that the message sent is never the message received. Underline never, not often not the message received, or sometimes the message received, or periodically the message received, but never the message received. When I first heard that, I thought that was pretty extreme. Decades since, I know it was spot on target. Professor Losey, I'll love you and miss you forever. And thank you all for sharing a moment with reminiscence of one of the most important figures in my life. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.